This week's portion, the Chukotai, concludes the book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, with a main section known as the Tochecha, or the Rebuke. God introduces it with a short list of blessings that we would experience in our lives if we follow the covenant and observe the mitzvot, but the bulk of it is a long list of punishments that individuals and the community would experience if anyone neglects God's ways. The idea of rebuke isn't just from God and isn't just that theology that's presented in the entire Torah of God being involved in our actions, rewarding us if we do well, and cursing us and punishing us if we do bad, but it's also an obligation of each individual. Earlier in the book of Vayikra, in the portion Kedoshim, we are commanded, Hocheach, Tochiach, et amitecha. Rebuke your fellow member of the community. Whenever we see someone doing wrong, we are not to ignore it. We are supposed to get involved and tell that person. Inform that person, you know that you are not doing right. You need to change your ways. This obligation of rebuke was mainly served by the prophets later in the Bible. Their job was to inform the people of how they have neglected in God's ways, warn them of impending punishment, and rebuke them in that way, and then try to encourage people to return to God. The role of the prophet then was taken over by the role of the rabbi in the community. It was expected of the rabbi in generations past to rebuke his congregation through sermons and through teachings. The rabbi was expected to get up on the bima traditionally 2 times a year before Yom Kippur. The Shabbat before Yom Kippur was especially the time in a sermon for the rabbi to talk about teshuvah, to talk about repentance, to rebuke the congregation on the one hand, and then lead the congregation to a correct path on the other. But is that the way that the rabbi should function today? I dare say that most rabbis would not see their job as rebuking the congregation, but rather one to lead the congregation through by being a positive role model and through positive teaching and speaking. On May 19th this week, our own Stephen Abraham, 3rd generation of our congregation, son of Wendy and Richard Abraham, grandson of Roz and Lee Goldberg, will become rabbi, will be ordained at the Jewish Theological Seminary. I am honored and humbled that he has asked me to participate in that ordination ceremony by placing the talit over his shoulders as the ceremony begins. And so we bless him and hope and pray that his experience as a rabbi, as he starts out in Omaha, Nebraska with his wife and Poo, his future child, he begins his job there in July. We hope and pray that as a new rabbi in the Jewish community, that he sees his model and his function as drawing people closer to Judaism, drawing people closer to God in a positive way. And that way, not have to rebuke the congregation, but have the same effect by being a positive role model, leading people to observance of mitzvot, and in that way being a blessing to the Jewish community. Shabbat Shalom.